I can't see anymore, so that's fine.
Oh, goodness. Welcome. We will begin in just a moment. And again, if you just joined, we're going to just wait one more moment, or one more minute, I should say, to allow more folks to join. And we'll start in just a minute. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started with our information session. And I expect a few others will join us as we go along, but we'll begin with our introductions. Thank you so much for joining us today at this information session for the Association of College and University Educators, and specifically for our open enrollment programs. My name is Christine Farrell. I am with ACUE, which is, if you're not already familiar with us, how we refer to our organization in our short name, ACUE. And I'm joined by my colleague, Jen McAllister, who is here with us. Jen is the Director of Program Management and specifically works with our open enrollment programs. And I'm going to share some information with you today. And in fact, if you'll go to the next slide, I'll tell you exactly what we'll be talking about. We're here today to give you a little bit of information about ACUE. We don't want to assume you know everything about us, and that's why you're here today. So we'll share with you some information about our mission and the services and programs that we offer to faculty and to institutions. And we'll also give you a program overview of the open enrollment programs. Jen will be sharing with you some details that you may not easily find on your own. And we have a video of a faculty member who recently shared with us her insights on her experience in the open enrollment courses. So we'll share that with you. And then we'll actually dive right into the course itself, which is hosted on Canvas. Most of you are probably familiar with Canvas or a similar learning management system. And we'll show you a few examples of the course in Canvas, or one of the courses, I should say. And then, of course, we'll open up the lines for Q&A. So on that note, let me share with you a few technical notes that can be helpful to you during this conversation. We are going to be talking at you, I'm afraid, for a bit of time, hopefully not too long. So if you do have questions, we encourage you to put those either in the chat box. You're welcome to also use the Q&A function, and we will be monitoring both of those, and we'll see your questions and try to address as many as possible as we move along. Anything that we miss during the conversation, we'll make sure that we address before we hop off of this webinar. We are recording the session, and we will share the recording along with some resources and a follow-up email to all of you. And I see a few of you have begun to introduce yourselves in the chat. Please feel free. We would love to hear from all of you. If you would like to introduce yourselves and where you are logging in from today, I welcome you to do that in the chat itself. All right, so let's get started. At ACUE, we are specifically very much a mission-driven organization, and we are focused on simply student success through quality instruction. Next slide, please. We are currently and have worked with over 200 colleges and universities and systems in order to bring to bear quality instruction for millions of students nationwide at this point. We have worked with almost 15,000 faculty across those colleges and universities and systems, and we also conduct one of the largest bodies of research that we're aware of that connects the impact of effective teaching to measures of student success. And so what we know through that research is that teaching with research-based teaching practices results in stronger levels of student achievement in the demonstrated by measures like grades, by completion rates, and those types of measures. And we also know by looking at that research and working with our partners that we can narrow and even close equity gaps among student groups. And if you'll go to the next slide, one of the reasons that we really began is because what we know is there is an incredible amount of work going on around student success, but many of the initiatives are focused on things that happen outside of the classroom. And so what you can see here on your screen are a variety of those examples, whether those are advising or career services, or course redesigns, or tutoring services. And all of these things are incredibly important. However, what we noticed was that what was missing was a real focus on what happens inside of the classroom with faculty and their engagement directly with students. So if you'll show the next slide, please. And so that's why we focus specifically on preparing and credentialing faculty in the evidence-based teaching practices that have been proven to increase student achievement and close those equity gaps. All right, so let's keep on going. In this clip here, we're about to play a video to give you a sense of some of the faculty who we've worked with to develop our courses and our various programs, talking in this case specifically about some of the practices that you would find in one of the open enrollment MicroCredential courses called Creating an Inclusive and Supportive Online Learning Environment.
The most important thing for any teacher, whether it's online or not, is that relationships matter. And the perception that you care is the primary issue of teaching.
When my instructor sends me a welcome message, it really makes me excited for the first day of class.
Hi, welcome to Logic. This is Dr. Burton.
I send an email to every one of my online students. I wanted to make sure that they knew that I see them.
I see you needed to meet with me today with the virtual office hours. Tell me what's going on.
What I have found is that once I open that door, they always come in.
Hi there, John. This is Dr. B here, and I'm pleased to provide you with some feedback.
It's actually a feedback to your face. Literally, he's talking to you. He looked at your material, he valued it, he spent his time.
I had them sign up for virtual study buddies using an online Google form.
There was a group of people that I was linked with from day one who I could count on and who could count on me. It was just the best thing ever.
I established this list of community norms as a way for us to foster respect for each other, a love and a caring environment, as well as a supportive environment.
I think that is at the core of what we need to do as educators to challenge ourselves to be better, to be inclusive, to make sure that our classrooms are spaces where all students can share their experiences, can share their knowledge, can share their history, and can feel heard, valued, and included.
I think of that video as essentially a trailer for that MicroCredential course. So that includes clips of some of the footage that you would see featured in that course. And we'll actually go into that course in just a few moments, and I will show you the various elements of the course. All right, so ACUE serves educators in a couple of different ways. Here today, we're very much focused on sharing with you information about our open enrollment courses. And our open enrollment courses are one of the newest offerings that we have. We started offering open enrollment courses about a year ago because what we learned was there were faculty who were interested in this material and in learning these practices who were serving institutions at which we did not have a campus partnership. And I'll explain what that is in just a moment. And so open enrollment courses really were developed to serve instructors directly. And so you register directly through our website. It's a really simple application form to give us enough information to ensure that we get you placed correctly. And then you begin the courses. They happen all year long, and you can see the dates on our website. Again, Jen McAllister is going to give you a little bit more detailed information, but the courses are short in nature. They are 6 to 8 week courses, and they're 100% delivered online. Through these courses, you can learn evidence-based teaching practices for the classroom environment, for the online environment, and of course, like most of us, and practices that would work in both environments, certainly as well. Now, just as a contrast, I offer you, let you know that we also have campus partnerships, and that's where we work directly with your department or your college or your institution, and we even work with entire higher education systems in order to come and bring to bear a comprehensive program in effective teaching practices. We also do offer through our institutional partnerships the MicroCredential courses. And so that's an option, and especially certainly over the past few months, we've been working with our partners with a lot of MicroCredential courses in effective online teaching, which I'm sure doesn't surprise any of you. And with these courses, we're able to partner and develop a deeper, longer lasting relationship that impacts a culture of an institution and really supports building a faculty learning community and a culture of instructional excellence. We also then, as I alluded to earlier, are able to partner with an institutional research office and design studies that allow us to demonstrate the impact of great teaching on the faculty themselves, as well as measures of student success and institutional measures as well. So on that note, if you'll go to the next slide, please, I want to just mention that we do have, I believe here on the webinar today, my colleague Bakari Brown, who's our Partner Development Director. And at the end of this webinar, or at any point, in fact, if you wonder whether you may be interested in an institutional partnership, whether you would like to take a group of faculty to consider for some professional development, Bakari would be a great individual for you to speak with to determine whether an institutional partnership arrangement is best for you, or whether it's best for you to leverage the open enrollment platform for your needs. So I wanted to point that out, and you can see here his email address. And of course, this slide also provides you with Jen McAllister's contact information. So Bakari, I'm not looking at the chat right now, but if you may have already introduced yourself, and if not, perhaps introduce yourself to everyone here in the chat. All right, let's keep going. One of the things that would like for all of you to leave here understanding is that the programs that ACUE has in effective teaching practices for the classroom and online learning environments are based on a deep body of research around effective teaching. And we, more than 5 years ago now, it's been about 5 years, I had to think about that, we worked with faculty and with teaching and learning experts, as well as accessed that body of research and developed what we call our effective practice framework, which is which are the competencies that we believe every college instructor needs to have in order to be an effective instructor. And all of our courses, including our open enrollment micro-credential courses, are mapped to the competencies that you see here in the effective practice framework. Also running through the effective practice framework are, all through it, in fact, are inclusive teaching practices. And that is something that is incredibly important to us. And what we know, again, through research, is that inclusive teaching or that effective teaching is inclusive teaching. Next slide, please. So as we look at the open enrollment micro-credential courses, we offer currently 7 courses. We offer, each course has essentially a mirror image. We offer, so for instance, creating an inclusive and supportive learning environment. We offer that course focused on a classroom-based environment. And then the flip side of that, we offer that same course focused on an online learning environment. Same thing with promoting active learning. We offer a classroom-based version and an online-based version. And inspiring inquiry and preparing lifelong learners, classroom-based, online. And then finally, the 7th course, designing student-centered courses, we offer in one format to really cover both online and classroom-based learning. One of the things I'd like to mention about these courses, however, is that we have been intentional in each of the micro-credential courses to offer resources for different modalities. So if you take, for instance, the Promoting Active Learning open enrollment course that is focused on classroom-based learning, you will also see within the course resources to support online learning. Likewise, if you take the Promoting Active Learning online course, you will see in the course resources for classroom-based learning. And when we get into the actual course, I'll show you an example of that. Finally, I'd like to use this opportunity to mention that we have an exciting new offering that is available in March. It's not yet, we haven't yet put the page on our website to share it with you. However, we'll be doing that in the next couple of days, and we will send an email out when that's ready. And in the meantime, you can actually already apply for the course. But that course is Inclusive Teaching for Equitable Learning, and it's very, it's specifically focused on inclusive teaching practices. All right, so let's go to the next slide. At this point, what I'm going to do is turn the screen over to my colleague Jen, and she's going to give you a little bit more detailed information about the open enrollment micro-credential courses.
Thanks, Christine. Each of the micro-credential courses have 6 to 7 learning modules that are delivered fully online. As Christine mentioned, we use Canvas as our learning management platform. The course is self-paced, and each Monday, a course or a module will open. You'll have all week to engage with the content, engage with your colleagues through the virtual discussion boards, pick a practice, and then complete a reflection by the end of day on Sunday so that you're ready to go when the next module opens the following Monday. We do have one synchronous and facilitated Zoom session, and that's our kickoff. And the reason that we have a kickoff is to give us the opportunity, certainly to welcome you to the course, but also to have you put some faces with the names that you're going to see in the discussion board. And then we spend the rest of the time walking through the course to make sure people are comfortable and confident as the course kicks off. And so you're ready to go at the right time. What you'll see when Christine takes us into the course, you'll see that the modules are incredibly content rich between the discussion boards and the demonstration videos and the expert faculty videos. It has a lot of great discussions and contents about practices, some that may be familiar and some that may be new to you. There are also a lot of downloadable planning guides and resources. And when I say there are a lot, you'll see there are a lot, especially when you think that you have 6 or 7 modules worth of resources to access. And so the great thing about the course is upon completion of the MicroCredential, you will maintain access to all of the materials for a year. So you don't have to feel pressure that you have to click on every link or open every document as you're working your way through the course. You can go back at your convenience to engage with the content at another time. Each cohort does have a professional facilitator that's an expert in teaching and learning. These folks are also all ACUE credentialed faculty, and they're also great. So they'll be a great help and resource as you work through the course. Next slide. All right, so here are the questions that I get asked all the time. The first is who's this course for? The great thing is that we have all disciplines that are represented in ACUE courses. If I think about the course takers that I've engaged with in the last 6 months or so, I can think of people in English and forensic science and chemistry and mathematics and performing arts and ceramics. So just faculty that are across the board from a discipline standpoint. And hopefully what you would find is that this really promotes an opportunity for you to network and engage with people that you may not typically have in your network. And through the virtual discussion boards, there really can be a robust conversation about that includes learning from one another. As Christine mentioned, we do also enroll groups of faculty through ACUE or through open enrollment, and Bakari is a great resource. If you're thinking about enrolling a group, we would love to talk to you about what you're looking for so that we could help you decide what the best option is for your institution. MicroCredential courses do cost $600 traditionally. For those of you in attendance today, the cost is $550 for our January open enrollment courses. Each module, upon completion, you will receive a badge, looks similar to the badge that you'll see at the right. And then upon completion of the full MicroCredential, you'll receive, as you see at the right, the MicroCredential and whatever the specific course name would be. And the MicroCredential stack, and once you've taken the 4 that Christine showed you as the core open enrollment courses, you would earn the certificate in effective college instruction. Or if you've taken all of the 7, it would be the advanced certificate in effective college instruction. The great thing is both certificates are awarded in collaboration with the American Council on Education. Next, I'd like to introduce you to a video from Sylvia Byer. Sylvia is going to tell you a little bit about her experience with ACUE, and she actually is an open enrollment course taker that just earned her advanced certificate. So let's take a look.
My first experience in an ACUE course was, I believe, about 2 years ago in the 2018-19 academic year, when about 30 of my colleagues and I participated in a year-long course. And I had enjoyed the year-long course, so I was all on board with taking some more coursework here. And specifically about online teaching, which was so timely given the pandemic. I found it really helpful to actually watch what other instructors had done and how they actually accomplished it before trying it myself. I've been teaching for over 30 years in higher education. So I think I'm fairly experienced, and yet I still learned quite a few new things that I then implemented in my classes. So if you are either an old pro or a newbie, I think there is a lot in these courses that you can actually take away and use to implement in your classes. So I would highly recommend these courses.
All right. Thank you, Sylvia Byer. Before we hop into Canvas itself, I do want to comment on the learning design. And I referenced earlier that when we created that effective practice framework, we worked with faculty and we worked with teaching and learning experts. Well, we also asked faculty at the time what they wanted in a course about effective teaching. And they told us that they wanted to be able to see practices actually being implemented in an actual classroom, which is one reason that we film quite a number of faculty in their environment, in their native environment. So they're not actors. We go right into the classroom or right into the online classroom and we film. And we were also told that they wanted to be able to put things into practice right away and also receive feedback and then be able to share that information with colleagues. And so that really informed the learning design that we have, as well as being informed by how adult learners actually learn. And so in every single ACUE program and course, you will learn and you will collaborate in a cohort, whether that's a multi-institutional cohort in the case of open enrollment courses, or in a cohort of your peers within an institution. And then you will actually select a practice to implement in your course, whether that's in person or online or a combination. You will be asked to write a reflection of how that implementation went. And then a reader, a professional ACUE reader, will provide you feedback on that reflection. And then that gives you an opportunity to further refine your practice. So with that, I'm going to share my screen and take you right into the course. Give me just a moment and let's hope that my internet is cooperative. So what I've done here, and I'm really just for the purposes of this presentation with you today, I'm really just going to touch on a few things. But what I have done is I've gone right into one of our MicroCredential courses, one of the open enrollment courses. And by the way, I keep saying open enrollment and MicroCredential interchangeably. And that's because we are indeed talking about our open enrollment courses, but every open enrollment course results in you earning a micro-credential. And so I often use those terms interchangeably. But as I mentioned earlier, we do offer the micro-credential courses in our campus partnerships as well. So in this case, I am in the open enrollment micro-credential course, creating an inclusive and supportive online learning environment. And what I have done is I have gone right into one of the modules in that course. So if you recall, each of these courses includes 6 to 7 learning modules. And in this case, I'm right in helping students persist in online learning. Every module in an ACUE course is similar in its construct, and it includes similar elements in every single one. So I'm going to go right into the introduction. Let's begin. The first thing that we do with every module is we include an introductory video. And it really is a way to give you a preview of what you're going to find in the course. So we're not going to watch the whole video, but I'll share with you just a little bit of it.
With math, a lot of students do come in, and they come in with this mindset that they don't like math or they just don't have a math brain. And so that is one of the first things that we do tackle in the course. Like day one is we talk about the growth mindset and brain science, that our brain has ability to grow. And I share a lot of Carol Dweck's work and Jo Bowler, who works more in math education. She has some great videos out there about how even mathematicians have had really hard struggles with math.
At the beginning of each semester, I share a famous failures YouTube video with my students so that they can see some of the people that they really look up to in their life that have accomplished a lot, went through many failures and overcame them and persevered and were still successful. I want them to make that connection to themselves in their own life, but particularly to the course of mathematics, which many of them may have struggled in the past.
And so this, again, gives you a preview of what you're going to cover in the course. We then ask you to access and activate prior knowledge and answer a couple of questions about what you already bring into the course in terms of knowledge. So for the sake of moving on, I'm just going to select a couple of things. We're going to submit that quiz. Upon submission, you could view the responses of your peers if you wanted to do that. Then what we queue up for you are the learning objectives for the module. And in this case, there are 3 learning objectives. And associated with each learning objective are teaching practices, these research-based teaching practices that you will see and learn more about and have an opportunity to implement and reflect upon. You can see here that you could download a skeletal outline if you wanted to do that. It's a Word document, and you could then take notes throughout the module on that outline if you wanted to. And there are resources like that outline all throughout the course. The next section of every module is a course demonstration. So you may recall I mentioned earlier that faculty said they wanted to see practices in action. Well, that's what these videos do. And in this case, in helping students persist in online learning, the course demonstrations are arranged by those 3 learning objectives: building students' growth mindset, increasing students' sense of belonging, and offering choice to increase persistence. I'm going to play just a moment of this 3rd video, offering choice to increase persistence.
In my parenthood class, they have a book club assignment. What we've done is we've created a list of popular parenting books just from a search on the internet of what are people reading these days about these different parenting topics, and put them into categories. They get in their groups and they decide what 2 books they're going to read and then what chunks they're going to read them in. I offer students choice in picking what books they read because it gives them some ownership and helps them feel a little more excited about the topic. We cover a lot in the course, and not every student is going to be interested in reading a book about how to parent a child with special needs or how to parent an infant. And so I want them as a group to be able to come together and decide what are you going to be excited about reading.
When my professor gives me choice with our book club, it really gives me a feeling of empowerment. I like the feeling that I'm able to still take charge in my learning. I like that my professor can't facilitate the discussion, but that I have that option to go toward things that I am more interested in, things that I want to learn more about, things that I just feel like I need to come up in. So having that choice makes it more personal to me as a student.
All right, so that's an example of that type of video. The next section that we have in every module are expert insights. So remember, we have now seen and heard from some faculty and from some students. We have students in all of our course demonstration videos as well. And now on the same topic, we will hear from an expert in the space. So I'm going to play just really a short moment of this.
We often set the conditions too high for the next thing. High standards are important. You can't learn without high standards. But it turns out that if you teach with only high standards, your students don't do very well. If you teach with only nurture and love, your students don't do too well. But the combination is magical.
While students are rapidly enrolling in online courses, research shows that they are also more likely to drop online courses. Financial, time, and technology stressors, along with work and family obligations, can seem insurmountable and take precedence over completing online coursework, especially if students feel disconnected from their professors or peers.
So building self-efficacy.
And so sometimes a module will have more than one expert insight video. Sometimes it will have one expert insight video. But in these videos, we utilize a lot of those speed drawing techniques to as a different approach to disseminating the information. All right, so in every module, we also have a set of implementation resources, and they're quite robust. And you can see here again, these are built out by the 3 different learning objectives and the practices associated with the learning objectives. What you can see if I open up each one of these, a typical resource might be something like this PDF around growth mindset. What is growth mindset versus a fixed mindset? Some of the resources are created for you to use for yourself. Some are created for you to use with your students. You can see the tabs up here also, I alluded to earlier, show you some resources we have. So in this case, it's a course focused on online teaching, but we've got some resources that are specific to classroom learning as well. And then a third tab with additional resources. So there are plenty of resources for you to download and use. And again, as Jen mentioned, you'll have access to the course for a year. After that, we present to you some common challenges and misconceptions associated with the practices and topics within each module. And then that creates for you the beginnings of some discussion that happen with your peers. So what we do after after the common challenges and misconceptions is that you will have what we call an observe and analyze video. Different from the videos we've seen before, these are actually staged and they're intended to show practices in development. So a faculty member will be demonstrating some things going well with a student and some things not going perhaps not as well with a student. In the interest of time, I'm not going to play this one, but you will get a sense. But essentially, in this case, there's a professor meeting with a student and doing some things well and some things that are still developing. And from there, what you would do is begin to have a discussion with your colleagues in the course about this video that you've observed, and you can start to think about, and I just put a comment in here earlier, but you have these discussion boards, and that's really where you start engaging a lot with your peers. So at this point, we have, you've watched the introductory video, you have reviewed the learning objectives, you've reviewed practices in the learning environment, you've heard from faculty, you've heard from students, you have heard from experts, you have accessed resources, you have learned about common challenges and misconceptions, you have seen developing practice in action, you have discussed this within the discussion board with your cohort, which is facilitated by an expert facilitator. And at this point, you will review all of the practices. We review them for you again, and you will select at least one to implement yourself. And certainly you can select a second if you like. And then once you've actually implemented the practice, we won't do this part here today, you will submit those and you will be asked to write an actual reflection. So I'll just do this. And here what you'll see is that before you submit your actual reflection, we show you a checklist and rubric upon which the reflection will be assessed. And we also provide you with a reflection guide. And so we guide you through that process as well. You submit the reflection, and then an ACUE reader will provide you with will score the reflection and provide the feedback. And then you're able to then provide us with feedback through a survey once you receive your reflection back. So at this time, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and ask that Elizabeth pull the other slides back up, if you don't mind, Elizabeth. And I will just, a couple of things to mention here at the end is, all in all, what we find through these courses are that faculty love them. They're incredibly enthusiastic about the learning that's happening inside the course. The data you see in front of you are from open enrollment course takers specifically. And so far this year, 99% of our faculty course takers have indicated that the content is relevant and engaging. And faculty have on average learned 2.2 new practices, 3.7 they've learned more about. The implementation numbers are, and these are per module, I should tell you, the implementation number is a little bit less than 1, but that's because a lot of faculty took courses this summer when they weren't actively teaching, but they have planning to implement. So this is just to say that we're thrilled that faculty are finding this relevant. Now, Jen's going to give you a bit of information about how you would actually go about enrolling in one of these courses, and then we will answer some questions in our last few moments.
Actually, before we start, I totally skipped a very important bullet on my frequently asked questions. So I do want to go back to it because I think it's really important. I get asked all the time if you need to be teaching, actively teaching when you're taking the course. The answer is, in an ideal situation, we would love for you to be actively teaching because, as we all know, the most transformation comes from engaging with the content, trying it, and then reflecting upon it. But we do realize that it's not always possible. We have many people, as Christine said, that took courses this summer or might be on a sabbatical. The process works the same way for a plan to implement. You'll still engage with the content, but instead of trying it in your classroom, you'll create a plan. You'll create an outline of what you're going to do with your students, and then you'll reflect upon what you anticipate the impact of what you've tried to be with your classroom. So that's a very important piece that I didn't want to forget. And when you're ready, the great news is, as Christine said, it's really easy to go back to the ACUE website, submit our brief application form. I'm the person that reviews and that you would hear from to confirm your enrollment. It would include a link to submit a payment to confirm your seat. A few days before the live launch, you would get course access so that you had time to look through the Canvas page so that you could come to the course launch with any questions that you might have. Once the course begins, you do have 8 weeks. As we've talked about, there's 6 to 7 modules per MicroCredential, but we like to give a little bit of a buffer for life that happens along the way. And upon completion, you would earn your MicroCredential and certainly then recognize your achievement yourself and the impact that it has to your students.
Awesome. Thank you, Jen. So, oh, go ahead. I was just going to say that as you were sharing that information, I was typing in answers to a few questions because I know we're short on time, but in case everybody didn't see the questions, one question was about whether you actually, the reflections are reviewed, and absolutely ACUE has a team of national readers. We call them readers, and their sole purpose is to read your reflections and score them against the rubric that I referenced and to provide you with feedback. Every course has an expert facilitator as well, who is there to support you throughout the course. We know that it takes on average 2 to 3 hours of time commitment per week in one of these courses to go through the material, to implement, to write the reflection, and go through that process. In terms of the 8 weeks, so each open enrollment micro-credential course is 6 to 7 modules. And so we allow up to 8 weeks for those courses, but you can go through the material more quickly. It is self-paced in that way. You have that live synchronous course launch. And from there, if you wanted to go through the course material more quickly, you certainly could. We do leave it, we give you up to 8 weeks to do it, but some people do it more quickly than that. Laura, I am reading your question right here on the screen. Oh yes, to clarify the relationship. So the full certificate in effective college instruction is based on having mastered the full 25 competencies in that effective practice framework. And in order to do that, you need to stack 4 micro-credential courses in order to do that. And many people certainly are able to do that. You could stack 4 that are dedicated to the online learning environment, or 4 that are dedicated to classroom learning, or you could actually do a little bit of mixing and matching, as long as you're covering all 25 competencies in the effective practice framework. And Jen or another one of my colleagues can help advise you on that, so that you're moving through in the way that makes the most sense for you to be able to earn that certificate. All right, I'm looking here at a few additional questions, and I know we are at time, so I completely understand if anybody needs to drop off. Again, we will send this recording, but let me see. Yes, okay, so this is an important, the new course that I referenced that we will launch in March, Inclusive Teaching for Equitable Learning, is the first micro-credential course that we have developed that is outside of that certificate process. So if you enroll in that course, it is a 5-module course, so it's a little bit shorter than the others. You will earn your micro-credential in Inclusive Teaching for Equitable Learning, but that is one course that will not stack to the full credential. And so it is an anomaly. It's a little bit different from the rest of our courses. And again, we are just beginning to release all of the information about that course. And so we will make sure that all of you receive that. But that is one that is a little bit different, but does promise to be an amazing course. We have worked now with well over 100 faculty across the nation, as well as outside of the US, to develop these courses, and that one has some really phenomenal faculty in it. The different instructors from the videos. So I was just saying, so I was looking at the numbers. We've worked with over 100 faculty, and we are really intentional to ensure that we represent faculty from both all kinds of institutions, two-year institutions, 4-year institutions, public institutions, private institutions. A diversity of geography is represented, and so those faculty, we really want to ensure that regardless of the perspective you're coming from, whether you're tenure track or adjunct, that you can see yourself in these courses and learn from someone who has a similar perspective. Do the instructor, can they review 5-minute actual teaching? Let's see, Catherine, I'm trying to make sure I understand your question. Video of an instructor. Jen, if you have a clear view of one of these questions, let me know.
I answered Kathy's, but I answered it only to the panelists, so that was not helpful.
Okay.
Kathy's question is where we find our instructors, so to speak. We certainly work with our partners to identify fantastic faculty on their campus, but we're very embedded in the industry as a whole. So we use the experts and people that are known in the industry to be experts at what they do in our courses. And I think, Kathy, you also asked if there's a way to see a 5-minute video of do the instructors, or can they review 5-minute video of an instructor's actual teaching in the work for the module? If I may not be understanding your question, but there are multiple instructors in each course. So it's not that, you know, Christine would be the only faculty you would see in one of the micro-credential courses. You would see many faculty during each of the micro-credential courses.
Right.
Answer the
And we film, we have filmed on dozens of campuses, actual classes. And then the online environment filming is a little trickier to film actual classes, but we have some actual class filming, but also a lot of faculty talking about their online courses. The 50% discount is really intended for January. If you know you want to enroll in one of these courses and you're ready to apply for a future date, we can honor that discount for a future date. But it's really
it's $50. It's not 50%.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say 50%? Okay, $50. Shoot. All right.
Sorry, y'all.
Are there any additional questions?
I think just one more. How much for the entire certificate? So if you took 4 courses at $600 a piece, it would be $2,400. You do get a certificate in effective college instruction, but I don't think typically it's considered a transcript.
Right.
Did we get them all?
I think so. And again, tomorrow you will receive an email that will have a recording that is captioned as well of this presentation. We'll also send a transcript of the chat in case that is useful, and some additional resources for you. And of course, you can reach out to us at any time. Jen is a resource, and Bakari if you are interested in talking about groups of faculty from your institution. All right, let me look one final time at the question list. And I think we're good. I think we are going to end with one final video. And what will happen at the end of this video is that the webinar will simply end. And it's just, as you know, you all probably do Zooms all the time. They're very abrupt in their ending. So I wanted to say thank you to all of you. I hope you have a wonderful evening. And I hope that this last video we leave you with, which we created back in the maybe a couple of months ago, of students expressing how they're feeling about their faculty. I hope it reminds you of how important your job is. And so thank you to everything all of you do. Have a good evening.
I don't know how I'm going to get this all done. I have my family here and I don't have a desk in my bedroom.
Life is kind of chaotic at home with my 3 babies.
Having an online lab course, I have no idea what I'm going to do.
Transitioning to online classes during a global pandemic has been probably the strangest, most stressful, weirdest experience I've ever gone through in my life.
Trying to navigate the weirdness of going to school but not going to school was really weird and uncomfortable.
Professor Burt made sure that we were taking care of ourselves, not just making sure we had a good grade in her class.
She was like, okay, if you ever need to just take a day, if you're having a mental health day, if you take it, and that's fine.
Don't want to get emotional again, but I definitely feel like she definitely provided that sense of support and security that I didn't, I guess, necessarily know I needed.
Thank you so much, Professor Kelly.
Dr. Ruiz-Smith, you are amazing.
Thank you for your patience, your kindness, your empathy.
Thank you for being such a wonderful, caring, and kind person. Thank you for being an excellent mentor.
You truly made us all feel that we weren't alone, especially going through the pandemic.
Thank you so much for expecting the best out of me, and I'm going to go on to give my best to others because of you.